This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 102 of the Dressage Radio Show, brought to you with the generous support of Equisketch, Kentucky Performance Products and Equestrian Collections. Hello, I'm Chris Stafford, and joining me to report on the Reem Acra FEI World Cup finals, which took place in Leipzig, Germany, is my friend, German journalist Kim Krallig. Kim, welcome to the show.
Yes, hello. Welcome to you, Chris.
Yeah, nice to hear from you. I know you had a fantastic week last week in Germany, didn't you? How far is Leipzig from you, where the World Cup finals took place?
Yeah, it's about 500 miles, so it took us a while to get there because I took the German Bahn, which means I had to be late. That's always the same. I was very late, but I was there for the World Cup final, so everything was okay. You
got there safely, and we're going to talk about, obviously, the Grand Prix and the freestyle, and the winner, of course, being the Dutch rider Adelinde Cornelissen with Parsifal. And we're going to analyze all of that with Kim in just a moment. But first of all, I want to remind you of one of our sponsors here on the Dressage Radio Show, Equisketch. They're a great new company dedicated to providing the best mobile apps for every rider. Each app has been designed to be used by riders of all ages and all levels of experience. With Equisketch Dressage, you can replace your dressage paper or dry erase boards and begin learning all your dressage tests on your iPhone or iPad. The Equisketch board allows you to study in a flashcard style by hiding the step instructions while visualizing your location in the arena. Every test can also be viewed in a written format and later shared with your dressage students or fellow riders. Equisketch Records allows you to manage all your horses and shows on the go. Track every medication, vet visit, dental exam, farrier work, and more, complete with built-in reminders. Equisketch has some of the best-selling equestrian apps on the iTunes App Store, which have already been purchased in over 35 countries. They're available for the iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch. So be sure to visit equisketch.com/HRN for more information, or search Equisketch in iTunes. Equisketch is dedicated to making your equestrian life mobile, one app at a time. Well, I'm back with my friend Kim Krallig from Germany, and we're going to, first of all, take a general look at the competition, Kim, and who the judges were and what kind of crowds did you have? No doubt being in Germany for the finals, because you had so many different finals taking place at the same time, didn't you? I bet you had a good crowd.
We had a fantastic crowd, but to be honest, the arena is very, very, very large. If you've ever been in Leipzig, it was even more than the last year. It was even more at the final in 2002 when they had just the show jumping final. Now we had 4 finals, and it was very crowded for Saturday and Sunday. But of course, it wasn't that easy to get the seats every sold out for the days before. So if you think about the Grand Prix, which was on Thursday night, we had about 4,000 to 5,000, which is a lot. But it seemed nearly half empty if you see the very grand stands around there. So I wouldn't say it was a fantastic crowd on Thursday, but it surely was for the final on Saturday.
And tell us a little bit about the facilities there in Leipzig then, because as I mentioned, you had several finals all at the same time. You had dressage, jumping, vaulting, and driving. Yes. Did I miss anything?
No, you didn't miss anything, and they could have done, I would say, 2 or 3 disciplines more.
Oh my goodness.
It's so huge. They used so many arenas. There's so many space you wouldn't think. It's unbelievable, but you should. One is for sure, next time I'll take my roller skates or something like this. Because we were really walking, running. If you want to catch a rider, you really had to be very fast, because they had 3 warming up arenas, and they were all about, let's say, 5, 7, 8 minutes by walking. So it really were huge distances. And we all said this is a little bit like Kentucky last year. But okay, it's now indoor Kentucky.
Yes. Oh, that's extraordinary. Now, who owns the facility then? That it was it in this town centre?
It's an exhibition center.
Okay.
A very large exhibition center, and they are doing the Leipzig show for several years there now, and it's growing and growing and growing. And the Leipzig public is really fantastic. They start at 7 in the morning and they wouldn't leave till 1 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So they are enthusiastic, that's for sure.
Dedicated, enthusiastic. So tell us about the dressage competition. How many riders did you have, and tell us who the grand jury was?
So as you know, maybe, we had for the first time 7 judges sitting around, and that was really funny. I've never seen a competition where it's 2 judges sitting on the side with A. So they saw nearly everything from behind. So and the 2 said, okay, it really was something special. But in the end, if you look at the marks, they weren't that different. So to be honest, if you ask me whether there are 5 or 7 or 10 judges, in the end, it seems as if there's not a big difference. So that was for first thing very special to see the judges sitting and behind everything, which was quite funny. And yes, we had 17 riders in the Grand Prix, but there was no way. Adelinde Cornelissen was far ahead of everything. And maybe you have heard it, Nathalie Wittgenstein, the princess from Denmark, was second, and that was really something we didn't really think of before, and she didn't think of at all, but she had so nicely ridden, so fantastically ridden, perfect shown, nearly no faults, so this really was amazing. It was an amazing thing to see.
It was extraordinary. Yeah, I just want to talk about the judges before we discuss the competition in detail, Kim, because, as you said, this is a new formula to have 7 judges. Tell us tell our audience exactly how that came about, Kim, because I know you follow the FEI rules and why they've changed these rules.
Okay, as you know, they always talk about transparency and to make the dressage sport more transparency, more for the public. And that was a very long discussion in the task force. And now they decided, last year decided after the tests in Aachen and Rotterdam, okay, we'll try it with 7 judges to be more transparent. And what they, of course, wanted is that not one judge can really change ranking or whatever. So if you have 7 instead out of 5, they say the marks of one judge are not that, if I say not that important, that's not right, but you know what I mean?
Influential, not
the influence is a little less, yes. And that's what they wanted. They didn't want... Of course, we don't have judges judging for nationalities, I know that, but in case we would think about that, it would have less influence, and that was the 2 main reasons.
Yeah, so you think even though there wasn't much discrepancy or difference between the positions, I mean, that in itself is a good thing, at least, you know, no matter where they were sitting around the arena, they were all singing the same tune.
Yes. So that was quite good. We had one mark that really was a little. We were really astonished about that. That was in the freestyle. So maybe we can talk about that later.
Okay.
That was a German judge, and we really were a little astonished.
Okay, yes, we will talk about that a little bit later, Kim. And
maybe we can stick with the judges. We had at Judge C, so main judge in the Grand Prix, that was Ghislain Fouarge. And this one has a very special rule since the beginning of this year. He is something like the over-judge at all. Maybe you have heard that. We have a supervisory channel.
Yes.
And we have this supervisory panel we had in Leipzig. And they changed 4 marks in all the Grand Prix. So if you think about how many marks we had, I wouldn't know exactly, but 17 and so a few hundred. They changed 4. So we again may discuss whether there's a sense or not. Some judges in Leipzig told me it would be better to have that panel in shows where are more judges who are not that experienced. But of course, at World Cup final in Leipzig, we had judges who really, really have a lot of experience, and so they don't make that many mistakes. Of course, I wouldn't say they could give a 5 or a 6, so we don't talk about that. We talk about a 4 or an 8 or something like that. So they changed 4 marks in the Grand Prix, this supervisory panel, and I don't really think this is worth talking about. So,
okay.
And one of the judges told me, this is not even about the third place after the comma. You know what I mean?
Yes.
This is about the 6th or 7th or 8th. So we can talk about that, whether this is so sensible.
Well, we should tell our listeners that where these judges came from, of course, Great Britain, Germany, USA, the Netherlands, Italy, Poland, and Denmark. So all different countries. There wasn't any two from the same country. So
but I think that's a good thing. Great thing to be. Yes, of course, of course. Yeah, and we had Ghislaine Fourage, who was the judge of C and who was the chief judge from the Netherlands, and he is very, very good accepted from his international colleagues. So I think it's a good idea to say this is something like our boss, because he really has something to say and has a great acceptance.
Yeah. Well, of course, it was all about dressage to music at the end of the day, and I understand there was some decoration around the boards to commemorate J.S. Bach's 27 years in Leipzig with the musical notes on the kicking boards.
Yes, it was very nicely done, and it was an idea from Frank Rothenberger, who usually we all know for course designer for the show jumping.
Yes.
But he is also building the fences for Olympic Games. He has done it, and he, of course, has done it for the show jumping final in Leipzig, and he did the boards around the Dressage arena. And he was thinking about Bach and Leipzig and thought about those notes on the boards. And then, of course, for the World Cup final, for the freestyle, it was a double meaning. It was very nice.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, But to be honest, not too many people saw it. So maybe we can do this idea a little better so you can recognize it a little easier.
Yes.
I didn't see it until he told me. Don't you see those notes? No, yes, of course, sure. But it was a very nice idea.
Yeah, very nice idea. Added a different note. Well, we're going to talk about the Grand Prix. Of course, you kicked off with the Grand Prix earlier in the week. But before we get to that, Kim, I want to remind our listeners about our sponsors here, Kentucky Performance Products, because when horsemen were asked what they were looking for in a nutritional supplement, the answer was easy. One that's affordable, effective, and scientifically proven. Kentucky Performance Products heard that message and developed supplements that meet those needs. All of their supplements, from Nalox, equine antacid to Summer Games, electrolytes, and joint armor, are all formulated based on sound research. The important thing is that you can count on them to deliver results, and they're affordable. So to choose the right KPP supplement for your horse, visit kppusa.com or call 1-800-772-1988. And to learn more about horse nutrition and interact with the KPP experts, be sure to visit their Facebook fan page. Well, Kim Krenning is with me from Germany, who obviously your allegiance and your loyalty with the German riders. But let's take a look at the Grand Prix and how that unfolded, Kim. That took place earlier on in the week, and of course, the defending champion was from the Netherlands, of course, with Edward Gal. But, your Isabel Werth, she is always there at the reckoning. So tell us how that unfolded.
Okay, in the Grand Prix, of course, Edward Gal had a very tough job. He sat in the saddle of Sister de Jeu, who is 12 years old, but we know her. She's really, really can be very spooky. And she was surely in the Grand Prix. She was very tensed, and I think Edward did a fantastic job, because I'm very sure if I had sitting on her, I wouldn't have been able to say right or left. So he did a fantastic job, but she was so tense, it couldn't have been more than 70%. And so he was just 8th in the Grand Prix. And you mentioned Isabel Weert. You know, Isabel Weert decided to take Satchmo. Satchmo, we all know, is 17 years old. And we all thought a little bit we had in our mind, this might be his last show. Maybe if he had done a fantastic job and would have been 2nd or 3rd, I think she would have said, okay, this wasn't fantastic and from a fantastic career, and now he'll be off. But he did a good job. I think he really did a good job, but he had some faults, as well as in the Grand Prix, as in the freestyle. And so they ended up 4th in the Grand Prix, and they ended up 5th in the freestyle. And he was quite a bit naughty, really, at the freestyle. He was a little funny. So he wasn't looking at then 17 years. He was really looking at 7. And I think that's a fantastic compliment to Isabel Weert, to have a 17-year-old horse, haven't had double champion 206, and he really looked like, let's say, 10, 12. But of course, they had some faults. So they weren't that. From the German point of view, we had a really great experience to see Damon Hill, the stallion we all knew from Ingrid Klimke, who had taken over by Helen Lange-Hahnberg. And they did a fantastic job, and I'm very sure this is an upcoming pair for the next season. He is fantastic. He's elegant. He can do everything, the stallion. And they are just together for half a year, no, a little more than half a year, and it was impressive.
And he finished 5th in the Grand Prix.
5th in the Grand Prix, that's it, yes.
And so Germans in the top 10, of course. But let's talk about your top-placed German rider, Ulla Salzgeber.
Ulla Salzgeber, she is back, as we all said here in Germany. Of course, we know Herzruß Erbe, and she was nearly in the German team 209 for Windsor. Yes. But then he injured himself at the FEI Aachen very badly. So Herzruß Erbe was out of the sport for about 7-8 months. And Ulla really did a good job, in my opinion, because she started very slowly with him. One show, long break, one show again. He does a lot of Acra trainer. That helps a lot. Mm-hmm. And he is has good muscles now again, and I think he's in a really fantastic shape, but he is not yet used to a crowd like that. So in the Grand Prix, they really did a good job, 76%, that's not bad, I would say, but this is his first indoor season, had been his first indoor season, and when he came in the arena in the freestyle and saw 8,000 people, he really said, "Ooh, what's that?" and didn't really relax. So you saw it in the freestyle. It wasn't that nice, but the Grand Prix was fantastic. And I think even with the freestyle, with a very shy horse, they did a fantastic job. So I would say they are really back to the top, those two.
How old is that horse now then?
Herzruß Erbe is 12 years old now.
He's 12. Okay, so he's coming to his best.
But with a long break, so I would say he's about like another 9 or 10-year-old.
Yes. So he's really coming to his best then, you know. And
yes, I hope so.
Yeah, and great for Ulla too. Yeah.
Yes, of course. You know, she has that other horse, Vakana, and so she can really take it slowly with him, and that's what she does. And it looks as if it's the exact right way for the both of them.
Well, you mentioned at the start of the show, Kim, that Natalie Suzanne Wittgenstein, the Danish princess, on her old favorite Digby, did not expect the result that she got when she came in, and she finished second in the Grand Prix. What impressed you about her performance at that stage of the competition?
That I can tell you that exactly, because we all know you always look dressage and think it's a little too narrow in the with the neck, or this is a little too strong there, a little too much here, a little too slow there. And she really showed us a presentation nearly too perfect. Nearly too perfect. You didn't see any strong things. It was like harmony from the beginning until the end. That's what's really, really impressed me. We all know Digby. I would say, between us, it is a normal horse. He's not in a trot. You wouldn't say, wow, or yeah, or something like that, like you do when you see Totilas or Parsival or whatever. He is a normal horse, but he is so perfectly ridden, so perfectly trained, with such a great harmony, that really is impressing. And wonderful. Natalie herself told us, if anybody would have told me a few years before that my little Digby, my little trotting mouse, as she said, will have 76% in a Grand Prix, she would have said, okay.
Yeah, in my dreams, huh?
And I asked her, what have you done? He is even better than last year, and he is now 15 years old. That's not the time when a horse is going to be better and better, but he really is better than last year. And she said, I didn't do anything different than before. I just trained and took my time, and all of a sudden he started to trot. So this was fantastic for me, because we all know he's self-bred. That's something very special.
Well, fantastic for her, fantastic result. And we're going to talk about Adelind, of course, who won there, the only rider in the 80s in the Grand Prix. But I'd like to just take a look at the other Dutch riders too, Kim, in there. Of course, Sister de Jeu with Edward Gall and Exquis Nadine with Hans-Peter Minderhund. How did they look to you at that stage?
That is really hard for me to say. So as I told about Sister de Jeu, I think Edward did a fantastic job. I couldn't have ridden this horse from here to there. So he did a good job, but she was tensed. She was looking around and, so he couldn't do better. Hans-Peter Minderhout and Exquis Nadine, you can see that he really has to ride her. Maybe I can tell it that way. That's what impressed me so much with Natalie, the easiness, the harmony. That's something a little bit missing with Exquis Nadine. Okay, she is 16 years old. Maybe she was a little tensed, but it's not the easiness we love in the dressage sport. You see that he really has to ride her, that he really has to help her here and there. And it looks a little bit less harmony than we would like it. That's my opinion. Of course, we have Jerez Parsival, who is a fantastic horse. We don't have to talk about that. He really, if he is starting the trotting Piaf Passage, it is marvelous. In my opinion, to be very, very German now? No, I don't hope so. But very dressage fan, let's say it that way. I remember Adelinde riding in Windsor, 2009, and I thought, wow, that's great. That's absolutely great. And I think they have changed a little bit their way of riding. Adelinde likes to lean a little backward. We have seen it quite a lot of time. And then it looks as if she has to hold him a little bit with her arms. Of course, you don't have it all the time, not all the show, but there are always some sequences where you would think, okay, the nose has to be a little bit more forward, extremely in the trotting thing. But of course, the gallop tour is fantastic.
Yes. Sure, such power in her.
Wow, that's really amazing. Those changings. I think the gallop tour is just great. But in the trot, I would prefer her not to lean back that much and not to hold him that narrow. So a little more easiness would have been even better. Of course, she had to win. There's no doubt about that one.
And she certainly did with an 80.957 and Digby on 76.884 and then Hesrus Eber with 76.216 followed by Satchmo 74.818. So that was the top four. And we should mention the two American entries there, Catherine Haddad-Stahler with Winnemaro and Jan Ebeling with Rafalka. They were in the 60s, and, in the 60s the World Cup is never going to be good enough, but, there were very few entries. You're only talking about 17 riders, and from, 80.9 with Parzival down to, the last horse was Finland's Skoffland's Masguapo, and I hope I've pronounced that correctly, for Mikaela Lind with 62. There's a huge difference there. Put that in perspective for us, would you, for the two American riders in the Grand Prix, Kim?
To be very honest, we had 3 American riders.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd forgotten Shauna Harding. Shauna, I'm sorry. Shauna's been on the show.
I'm lucky you forgot it. I didn't.
know. Yes, just as well I forgot it. Of course, with Come On the Third. Shauna, I apologise if you're listening. With 64, finished in 15th, of course, in the Grand Prix. So let's talk about those American riders in context of the quality of the class, Kim.
So I think there is Rafalka with Jan Ebeling had really done a good job. A very nice horse, and the both of them, and I would say nearly the same with Catherine Haddad and Winnemaro, they did a really good job. They were riding very fine. They were riding very accurate. So I really, really liked them. But to be at the very top at like Adelinde Cornelissen or Digby on another way, they had to have more highlights. More points where you really can say this is not a 6, this is not a 7. No, it's a 9, because you need a 9 or 8 or a 10 maybe to get in this high up rankings, and that's what's just missing. But they did a really good job, and they showed us very nicely ridden horses, and I think that's really very nice. And now I have to be very, very honest. I haven't seen Shauna Harding in the Grand Prix, so I couldn't say too much about her.
Okay.
In that one. But they did a really good job. We had also pairs where you could have said, is it really good to have her or him there? But on the other hand, we have to see the arena, this huge arena, and the long, long way from the stables to the warming up, and from the warming up to the arena again. It was very exciting for the horses, and very many horses really couldn't relax. And that wasn't the fault of the horses or of the rider. It was an impressive scene. So I can understand those horses, and some of the riders didn't have any chance to do better. So I think that's why we have those big differences from 80 to 62%.
Yes.
For instance, let's just talk about one example. Damon Hill, the stallion I talked before, he had to leave the warming up arena because in the same exhibition hall was a show jumping class, and they had their prize giving ceremony. Very, very loud. So Damon Hill really got crazy. They had to go out. They had to walk 10 minutes in the stable area. They came back, had another 5 minutes to prepare for the Grand Prix. And then he left the warming up arena into the main arena and met 4 little shetty ponies.
Oh,
a stallion,
Oh,
that didn't really relax him.
No,
and so they really reached quite excited the main arena, and that's something you can't blame anybody for.
No, you certainly can't. Not horse or rider. Well, I should go aahead.
Yeah, that's something they all had to fight with. It was not easy to ride there. And if you have a horse like, let's say, Sister de Jeu from Edward Gull, she was really out of her mind. And then the prize giving, that's something I really don't understand. They had the prize giving after the Grand Prix Thursday night, and it was loud. Of course. I talked to some of the people, of the organizers, and they said, we have to do it that way because we want to have enthusiastic crowd and so on and so on. Yeah. Okay, but it was really loud, and they had lights and everything, and they knew the horses had to come back. It wasn't her last prize giving. They had to come back for the freestyle 2 days later, and they surely won't forget.
No.
So why is it not allowed to put something over their ears or something to make it a little easier for them?
Well, that sounds like a very big atmosphere. It also sounds like Las Vegas lights and music and as well. Yeah. I do want to mention that when we're talking about our American entries there, that Rafalka did finish 10th with Jan Ebeling on 68.191, Winnemaro with Catherine Hadach-Dahler on 67.34, and Shauna Harding with Come On the Third with 64.696. We haven't mentioned yet the 7th place there on the Grand Prix. That was Watermill Scandic HBC with Patrick Kittel from Sweden on 70.4. He was feeling very positive and confident going into these finals with the way this horse has been going this season. Kim, did you see him?
Yes, of course I saw him. And I talked with Patrick, and he said, one day before the first competition started, he said to me, I've seen all the other horses. Wow, they are really in good shape. So he was really impressed. But I think he did a good job. He really showed Scandic in a good way. He was a little tensed in the Grand Prix, but the freestyle, I know we want to talk about it later, but as you mention him now, in the freestyle, in my opinion, he could have been a few percent higher because this was really a fantastic freestyle. He had always the rhythm, always. You couldn't see anything he had to do. The horse seems to just enjoy being in there. We know about the problem with his mouth, but it was okay in the freestyle, and he had a fantastic silhouette. So for me, the freestyle from Patrick was really great, great. And I didn't really understand why they didn't have a few more percent for him.
Okay, well, that's interesting. We'll put that in context of the rest of the freestyle in just a moment. But before we do, I want to remind you of our sponsors here on the Dressage Radio Show, Equestrian Collections. You know, many riders that started their riding in other disciplines eventually migrate towards dressage as they mature as riders. But physically, emotionally, and intellectually, dressage becomes more attractive, and at every stage in their life, riders are looking to wear appropriate apparel that has often been designed specifically for the sport. Style and functionality are important, as is a certain level of attention to detail and quality. For this reason, there is no better choice than to shop at Equestrian Collections. Their selection is unmatched with the best names in riding attire. For all your riding and stable choices, be sure to visit equestriancollections.com. Well, I have Kim Kroling with me, my friend and German journalist, and nobody better to discuss the World Cup finals and analyse the curve, which obviously is always exciting, the climax to the show, Kim. I'm sure there was a packed house in the stadium there in Leipzig for the freestyle.
Yes, it was absolutely correct. And the enthusiastic crowd, for some horses, I think it was really hard to get even in there, and some really couldn't relax at all. So it was very hard, and if you had an experienced horse, you really had a positive thing then on that night, Saturday night. It was a night show, it was at the night, and the people were really fantastic, but of course it was difficult for the riders and the horses.
Well, very difficult, but you know, the girls came out on top for a change. 1, 2, 3 went to girls. So, you know, that was exciting for us girls because, you know, we're so used to Edward Gall and, you know, Hans-Peter Minderhood, you know, the men up there. It was a very fair competition in that respect. Of course, Adelinde won. Those of you who follow the sport will know that she won with 84.804. And in second place, was also second, of course, in the Grand Prix, was Digby. And in third place, Hertruf's Airbert with 78.82, and then Sister de Jure with 77.393, and then Satchmo with 77.14, and we can go on. The full results, of course, will be on our website, so you can check those on our show notes at any time. We'll put you a link there to the complete analysis of all the results from the World Cup finals. Well, Kim, where do you begin with that freestyle?
What do you mean by where do I begin?
Where do you begin? Do you want to start at the top of with the first performances?
I see. Okay, of course I want to start at the top. And
okay.
Adelinde, of course, had a fantastic freestyle. And we had a few hours before the final started in the evening. We had a journalist seminar with Katrina Wüst, who is a German judge and who was Judges C at the freestyle. Mm-hmm. And he told us a little bit about judging a freestyle and how important it is that the music fits to the thing the horse does, to the movements, and not only here's some music and here I write a little bit. And if you want to see that really fantastically in harmony, the music, the horse, the movement, and the rider. So it was fantastic with Adelinde and Parzival. So I think, in my opinion, 91 she got in the B note of Judge at K. That's fantastic, but it was fantastic. What else can you do? So let's take the 91. Sure, why not? And that was one of the problems we had with Isabel Wert, for instance. She had a mistake in the gallop because Satchmo hit the boards with one of the hind legs and made a big mistake after that and was really excited. And of course, Isabel, it took her quite a long time to get back to her music again, and that cost her a lot of points.
Yes.
And that's, of course, a problem some of the riders had because the horses were so excited. And as you know, if there's a lot of excitement, you're sometimes faster than at home in the training with the music. And so it didn't fit too well in some freestyles. And that's a problem we really had with all 15 horses in the freestyle. Not all, but a lot of horses in the freestyle. They were so excited that we had quite a lot of mistakes. I wouldn't say we had not even one single freestyle without a mistake. Not even Adelinde had it without a mistake. She had a mistake in the flying changes. And nearly every horse, because they really were excited. And that's very, very, very difficult if you want to follow your music, but you have to be concentrated on the movement and the horse as well. So that was a difficult thing.
Very difficult for them to have, a big atmosphere like that. I just want to go back to the judges, and then we'll talk more about the performances, Kim. The panel of judges, of course, at C with Kay Wurst, as you said, from Germany. I'm sure our listeners are curious as to, with so many now, you have 7 judges around the arena. Who decides who is positioned where around the arena?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I think we will ask that question. I wonder if any of our listeners know that.
Yeah.
Let's put that out there. Does anyone know who decides which position the judges are going to be placed at in dressage competitions? Is that the head of the ground jury? Or do they discuss it between themselves? Or
No, I'm sure they're not doing that because Ghislain Foix, for an example, he was Judge C, as you remember, in the Grand Prix, and he told us he is not at all looking forward to the freestyle because then he will be one of those 2 sitting at the side at A and seeing everything from behind. And he said, I don't want to do it. I'm not looking forward to that. But of course he had to.
Yes. All right. Well, if anyone out there knows exactly who decides, and is it decided before the competition? Obviously before the competition, but how far before the competition? And if anyone has any information, send me an email, chris@horseradionetwork.com, because both Kim and I would like to know who makes that decision.
Yes, for sure.
All right, Kim. Well, let's talk about these other performances then. As you said, they all made some mistakes, but we had one rider we haven't mentioned. Richard Davidson was the only British representative there with Artemis. He finished on the 73.143 in 10th place. What did you think of that?
I don't know. Sorry. That's one of those I couldn't see.
Okay.
I saw him in the training, but that's exactly the thing I told you in the beginning. If you really wanted to talk to the riders and you wanted to see him, it was running. And then in the end, but it took us about 3 days, that we were able to stay in the warm-up arena to look the riders in the television.
Yes.
And then could talk to them.
Yes, yes.
But you couldn't do everything.
You couldn't do everything. And
you couldn't do, you just...
Because you didn't take your roller skates, Kim.
Next year.
Next
year, you can be sure. I saw those kids, they had these shoes with some rolls under the shoes. And they were running around. And I said, okay, next year I have one of those. No, but I'm sorry. I didn't see Artemis. Okay. I just saw him at the warming up. And he looked good to me, but not... You wouldn't say, wow, look at that.
Okay. Okay. Well,
but I have no idea about his freestyle.
Big atmosphere for him, for all of them, of course.
Sure.
Well, let's talk about Digby then, because I'm sure you saw Digby an 80.03 to finish, 36 to finish in second place again. I mean, to top that, to get an 80 for him, Natalie must be just in heaven now.
She was. To be honest, I know Natalie for very many years, and she always knows something to say. But in the press conference, she sat there and was thinking and didn't say anything for a few moments. And then she said, I'm just speechless. I love this horse. And she couldn't believe it. And I'm quite sure she can't believe it today. So take her a few weeks. She was overwhelmed, and it was fantastic. It was right, her second place. It was really right. And she also had a few mistakes, not a few, but one when Digby started galloping in the trot, but for a very short break. So it was fantastic. It fitted to the music, and it was this excellent riding she showed us, as in the Grand Prix, and the horse was so in harmony with her. It was nice. It was just nice.
What was the music, Kim?
How would you say? West Side Story.
Oh, yes, of course. West Side
we know
Story.
it. She has for quite a long time, and it was the West Side Story.
Yeah, the same as, and Parsifal's was the same as...
Yes.
Okay. And exactly. then how about Herzru's Erbe? What was that like, and what was the music for that horse?
Herzru's Erbe, just let me think, that's Les Miserables.
You
know that musical?
Yes, of course.
Les Miserables.
Yes.
That's the music. Ulla is always very happy with that music. She loves it, and I think it fits very well to the horse, and it fits very well to her freestyle. And for the final, she changed the freestyle a very little bit, and had a Piaf pirouette at the end that fitted perfect. But as I said, in the freestyle, Herzru's Erbe really was a little shy. Let's say it that way. He didn't feel very well. He didn't relax at all. And Ulla said she had to help him through the whole test. And that's what you saw, of course. And that's why he didn't show himself as he could have done. But in the end, she's the best German, even with that thing. I think that's fantastic. 78, that's okay.
Yeah, 78.821. And then, of course, in fourth place, Sister de Jeu with Edward Gall, 77.393 for them.
And she was much better than in the Grand Prix. I have no idea how Edward could have done that, because in the Grand Prix, we had less audience, we had less excitement, but she really was relaxed, and it was a nice test. So that was okay. He was in fourth now.
Yeah, and we've talked about Satchmo and Watermill Scandic. And Damon Hill, after all the excitement in the warm-up arena before, he finished his seventh with 74.946. And was he able to settle for the test, or did he?
Okay, but the excitement was before the Grand Prix. It was not before the freestyle.
I got that, yep. Was he settled in the warm-up for that and his preparation?
Yes, good. It was okay, but of course he wasn't that good as if he would have had a nice preparation and smoothly done. And I think Karen did an excellent job. It was her first World Cup final, and she couldn't decide which horse to take. She has also Responsible, the other horse, and with both of them, she had some of the qualifications done during the winter time, and only 2 days before the final, to be honest, the trainer said, you should take Damon Hill, that's the horse for your future, and she did. And she said, I'm just very happy with him. It was our first World Cup final. It was the fourth time that this horse went through a freestyle, and they did a fantastic job, and I'm very, very sure. Let's have them another few months and they will be up in the top.
Well, fantastic. Well, it must have been a really wonderful competition anyway because of the big atmosphere and some of the best combinations in the world, of course, there. And how would you sum it up? How would you finally sort of summarize this World Cup in the context of other World Cups, because you've done so many, Kim? How does this one compare?
I don't really want to answer.
Okay. Put you on the spot.
To be honest, in my opinion, I really would prefer a final with one or two disciplines. Because
too much.
Can concentrate.
Yeah.
And I am not too sure. Of course, it was excitement. It was an excellent organization. It was gigantic, whatever word you say now. But you just can't concentrate on the disciplines, and I love to be concentrated on the sport. And if you would have asked me with the other finals, have you seen this one and this one, I always could have said yes, of course, but I couldn't in Leipzig because you just couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. You couldn't watch everything and talk with everything the way you wanted to. It was just too much.
Just too
much.
In
my opinion, 1-2 disciplines, that's okay. You can concentrate, you can love the sport, you can live the sport, but four disciplines, that is a lot, really.
It is. Yeah.
And but one more thing, maybe if we think about Leipzig, of course they have fantastic conditions for the riders and horses, and they all loved it there, even if it was a little exciting here and there. And Volker Wolf, the organizer, said he would like to stay a World Cup station, a qualifier, the next years. But of course, as you know, we always have to in Germany.
Yes.
And I'm very sure Germany is not to get 3 World Cup stations. Yeah. So now it's going to be very interesting how things are going on here in Germany. Because Wolf said he definitely wants to be one of the World Cup stations, and we have Neumünster as the oldest station. Neumünster is station in the World Cup since the very beginning, and we have Frankfurt, which is a very nice station as well, with the final of the World Cup for the young riders and the final of the Nürnberger Burgpokal. So it's now going to be very interesting how things are going on here in Germany with the World Cup.
You have so much to choose from. Did you watch the young riders?
The young riders were just in Frankfurt. They don't have stations. They have just the final in December in Frankfurt every year.
Okay.
For 4 years. 4 or 5 years now. I'm not very sure.
Okay. All
right. But that's every year. It's very, very interesting, of course, and it's fantastic for them to be at the World Cup stations with the great ones. And I always thought that is a very special mixture. And now we'll see how things are going on.
Absolutely.
Because, of course, we cannot have 3 stations in Germany. That's ridiculous.
Not even for Germany. And that's coming from a German. So, well, we should mention that in the 26-year history of the FEI World Cup Dressage competition, that now makes 11 wins to the Netherlands. So I'm sure Germany will want to turn this up a little bit and, just make sure that they keep the balance there. That is always a friendly rivalry. It's like between Australia and New Zealand, and it is between Germany and the Netherlands. It promises for a very exciting summer. Kim, where do you go next to follow dressage? Where's your next show?
Oh, to be honest, I'll be on Thursday in Hagen at the international show from Ulrich Kasselmann.
Oh, yes.
And Hagen should have been the first show for Totilas and Matthias Rath, but they had to cancel because Totilas is injured a little bit. Mm-hmm. He's okay now, but he's not fit enough for a show now. So I think this is going to be as well very interesting. The Hagen show is every year getting better and better as well. And then, of course, we'll have one after the other. Then we have an exciting weekend with Hamburg and München on the same time. We have the Pfingstturnier in Wiesbaden, and then the German Championships, and, of course, then Rotterdam.
And Rotterdam, of course, always popular. And that will be interesting to see how the dressage unfolds between the giants of dressage in Europe. Well, Kim, I want to thank you so much for spending this time with us to give us such a comprehensive report on the World Cup finals. It's always great to have you on the show. And, we're going to touch base with you as the summer season unfolds, because you're heading towards a European Championship later this year. So we'll get your thoughts on that as we get closer to those championships.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Well, before I go, I want to remind you that you can follow all the results. We'll put a link for you to see the results in detail of the Reem Acra FEI World Cup finals on our website at dressageradio.com, of course. And don't forget, you can check out all the links there, and you can find our Facebook fan page where you can leave comments and questions. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris E. Stafford or Horse Radio, and you can also send your comments and questions to me at chris@horseradionetwork.com. Well, again, my thanks to Kim Krelling from Germany for giving us such a fantastic report on the World Cup finals, and thanks to all of you for joining me this week. I will be back, of course, same time, same place next week. So until then, thank you all for listening.